Welcome to episode 8, and yes, we're back with Draw Entity, looking at map 4, Identity. But did you see what the homework was? Did you see the error that was made? Come on, you must have spotted it. Episode 7, wasn't it? Last episode, we're on 8 here now. And did we forget something? Well, of course we did. We did the cardinal sin. And the cardinal sin, what was that? Oh, come on, Blades. What was it? What did you not do? This. We didn't clean up after ourselves. We are messy, messy, messy pups. Naughty. So, yeah. Let's not forget to clean up, shall we? If we don't do that, the whole thing just, well, yuck, goes a bit messy. Literally, address messy all over the place, and just becomes an absolute nightmare. So, clean up, put that in, that's an error, that's me, hands up, I admit to an error. Those who spotted it, well done. Well done to you. So, let's get back to our map 4 identity. Just save this out now. Made an alteration there. We can make another alteration here, because that's not going to happen for too much longer. That's going to be done now. Maths. Maths. Here we are. Models, maths, Matrix4. So, functions belonging to Matrix4. Let's see what we have. We have an identity to do. So how do we write functions in here? It's a header file only. There is no .cpp file. So anything that I put in here, I want to tell the compiler that it's inline. That anything that I put in here should be transferred to the function or the code that is using it. I don't want it to compile this. It can't compile this. It's a header file. So I'm asking the compiler to copy and paste code. In other words, I'm being lazy and asking the compiler to do it for me. So how do we do that? We do inline. I'm also going to say that it's static, because it's never going to change. To tell the compiler that it can copy and paste this. It can copy and paste it to wherever it wants and use it how it wants. To streamline our code. It's a map4 is going to be the result, and its identity. Now, the identity matrix. The identity matrix itself, I'm going to put semicolon as well because that's a declaration, not a definition. We'll do the definition in a minute. The identity matrix itself is a special matrix. It's the same as saying when you set up an integer, you put int I equals 0 or whatever. Or int I equals 1, whatever you're going to set it to, but I equals 0 is the standard how to set up a variable for an integer that hasn't been used yet. What we're going to do is set up a mat4 to a state, its identity, for when it hasn't been used yet. In other words, it's empty. There's nothing in it. It's never been changed. It's a zeroed out identity. But if you look this up, it's not actually quite 0. I've got to go where now? There's a semicolon there. We're still in amber space. Okay, so that's there. Yeah, it's okay. I'm just working out where I've got to do this part. And it's here. So I'm just going to draw a line across because all my definitions are coming here. So it's special identity. It's a one where the matrix has never been used. It's fresh as a baby. So it's a map4 it is it's part of map4. So the return value is a map4. The actual thing is part of the class mat4. So it's colon, and then it's just identity, isn't it? Right, notice we haven't done a constructor. We're not going to do one either, because that will count as a constructor there. It does actually, because we've got the two curly brackets there, so that it's a declaration and definition all in one. That's the constructor. Yeah, that's why I did it that way. You're going to find out why now. So this is the actual function that it will copy and paste, and it's going to be return a that. Why? How can you get away with that, Blades? No way, that's not the function, is it? Yeah. Because what we did here, why I said it was explicit, is because I typed in the initial values to be the initial default values of a map4 to be the identity matrix, which is this 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 and everything else is to zeros. That is an identity matrix. So map4, without anything inside it, will take all the default values and return the identity matrix which those values are. That's where I got those values from. Yeah. Cheeky, huh? But got bad news for you. It works beautifully, because now it'll copy and paste that where I put map4 : identity open close brackets. That will be copied there. Neat. That's using C++ to aid you in your programming and for exactness. And you can do this with C++. It's like aliasing things. And you can create your own language by doing it. Isn't that wonderful? My squiggly line's gone. Hold on a minute. If my squiggly line's gone, can't I build it? I don't know. I've not tried this. Warning. Unused parameter. Entity. On draw entity 5660. Entity. You're warning me that that isn't used? Well, of course it's not used because we haven't done the calculations. That's fine then. That entity being passed in, by the way, is part of the information that we are going to be sending to the calculations, because we are doing the calculations for the model matrix and the view matrix for whichever entity we have here. So that is correct. That is correct. Draw yeah, that is absolutely spot on. It's worked. It's worked, and that's because we're using dummy variables. So there we go. Done. Now, I'm not going to do a full programming bit today. What I'm going to do instead is set you some homework, because this is going to be issued out to you on Friday, which means you get the whole weekend before you get to the next episode. So what I'm going to do is a new file. So it's homework, this is. I'll set it all up for you. What we're going to do is draw, and it's going to be terrain. Now, everybody that's followed the series through so far has noticed that every time we get to this stage, everything suddenly gets very easy and I use a load of copy and paste. So I'm going to do that for you. I'll show you the setup. It's terrain.cpp. Okay, let's set these files up. How is terrain.h going to look? Well, let's be honest. It's going to look very much like that. Oh, god damn it. do apologise about the space thing. I don't look at it until the very end, and I really should when I'm typing it in. So copy that, and that's draw entity, draw terrain.h. Let's just paste it. There we go. Remember, it just say draw entity all over it. It's all wrong. Don't worry about that. Okay, I did alter that. I put space at the end. There we go. And draw entity.cpp with all of this lot in, including our dummy variables. We'll take from 1. And I haven't put space on this one. Why? Why do I keep doing that? I know to do it. It's not for me, and it's not for C++. It's for those compilers out there that need it. I don't know what compiler you're using. Draw entity CPP, draw terrain CPP, paste. So what you've now got is a copy. Corrected copy with cleanup in for draw terrain. Now I'm going to give you a hint, a big hint. The first things you are going to need to change is that there. And that's now draw terrain. Okay. Control S, thank you, save it all out, empty, empty, blah, 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 blah. No, that's part of the homework now. And on draw terrain.h, you do have to still make one render engine. There it is. It's not draw entity, it's draw terrain. So what I want you to do for the homework over the weekend is to figure out the changes required to make this work in exactly the same way as draw entity would do, but being called draw terrain. Obviously, you can start seeing now that things are coming up as squigglies. And if you're a knowledgeable programmer, I don't know if you're a starter or if you're somebody who knows what they're doing or what, but if you know what you're doing and you're quite comfortable with C++, go ahead and look back over the terrain code and see if you can figure out the changes that are needed for draw terrain. Is it exactly the same as draw entity, or is it different? Well, I'll explain everything on Monday with episode... Where are we now? We're on 7, 8, 9. On episode 9, it'll be, won't it? I think. Something like that, anyway. But on Monday's episode, I will give full explanations, and of course, I'll be going through the code myself and doing all the changes. If you have done the changes over the weekend, please hold on to them, and when you watch the video, go through your changes in the same order that I go through the changes here, and see if you've done every single one, or if you miss one. Copy and paste is awful, because usually you will always miss something you're supposed to change, and unfortunately that's why I don't like copy and paste. It's the devil's sin to use a copy and paste when you're programming. It really is, because it just messes up everything. So it's something we shouldn't do, and I've just been naughty again. Every time I come to terrain, I've been very, very naughty. I've been very bad, and it's the devil's sin. So there it is. It's in front of you. Can you make that into working code for the terrain? Interesting. We've got to the stage where you might just be able to. Have a go. Have a go. If you can't, you can't. Doesn't matter. Don't matter. But you have the ideas, and as I go through and I explain any changes that I make, we'll see how it goes, and you can always put comments in the video afterwards and say, but I thought you might want to do this, or you might want to do that, or you might want to do the other. Remember, all code can be done differently. Doesn't mean that I'm right no matter what I write. There you go. What you write is never necessarily right. So I'm going to leave you with that. That completes draw entity. So plus. So that's draw entity complete. Now we've put the extra function in map4 plus homework. There you go. And I'm doing this on purpose. I'm doing it not to upset people, but just to give people a chance to think over, especially that map thing and the use of vectors and how that map actually works within the code. You might want to go to c++.com and have a look at how it works, or the manual that they give on how it works, and see if it needs changing. Could be interesting. Then again, I might be asking too much. I don't know. I'm not bothered either way, but the next video will have the complete code. So here we go. Let's save this out to the server. That means this Friday night I've just done a very short episode of around about 16 minutes. So I'm going to go off to the pub and have a beer. I think you should too. If you're looking at this on the Friday night, go and have a beer. You've earned it. You've earned it. I think you're all wonderful, and go enjoy yourselves and have fun.